Hello, and welcome to another session of Interior Marketing. My name is Hannah Claude, and I'm the founder of Hannah Claude Marketing, a digital marketing agency where we work with interior businesses like yours. Every Wednesday from 11 o'clock, I run free digital marketing sessions for interior professionals, where we always tackle each and every single digital marketing theme, everything you need to know in order for your business to succeed online. Now, today is quite special because instead of the standard lecture or tutorial, we're actually going to have a live Q&A about all things Instagram, which was our theme for the June. And I will also, at the end of the stream, announce the theme for the July, so that's something to look forward to. Make sure you stay all the way to the end. Just before we start, a quick reminder for those of you who are not part of our mailing list, head over to hannahcloud.com, scroll all the way down and sign up to our email list. On every Thursday, I send out the show notes from the Instagram Live, helpful resources, and basically everything you need to know if all resources which you need to know from the previous session. So make sure that you join us. And I see there's quite a few of you. Hello. Waving back all of you. And feel free to start typing down your questions just when we start. Okay, firstly, why Instagram? We have talked about this a little bit in the past, but why Instagram is such a great platform for interior designers. Because Instagram is very visual. It allows you an opportunity to showcase your work, to showcase what you like to do. Oh, hello, Susan. To showcase what you do, and it's just such a wonderful medium when it comes to it. You also have a lot of different ways how you can engage with your audience, which is quite unusual. What I personally quite like, you can do the stories, you can do the post, but you can do also Instagram Live, you can create the videos, do IGTV. I think what Instagram is really trying is to take the best elements from all the other social media platform and just bring it to this one. Quick reminder, feel free to write any questions which you have about Instagram. I will be glad to answer them right now. So I think that's what makes the Instagram such a great platform for interior designers. But also for interior suppliers, for example. Good to go stuff. So you have a lot of different opportunities how you can engage with your audience, but because generally it is quite it is platform where people don't come to shop to buy, but mostly just to have a good time and connect with their friends and family, perhaps find some things which they would like. The casual settings of it allows you to build a relationship quite quickly. And I think that really opens up an opportunities for brands to create that connection. If you have read the article which I wrote on hannahclaude.com about using Instagram for interior business, I've mentioned that actually over 80% of people have made a purchase in the past based on something they found on the Instagram. And I think that number is really, really interesting, because that is basically telling you that if you're not on Instagram, you're really, really missing out. So I will just wait for your questions about using Instagram for interior business. I'm very interested in your opinion. Okay, thank you so much, Eclectic Studio. I'm very interested in your opinion when it comes to content for interior designers. And by that, I mean captions. Okay, so creating captions for interior studios. I think that ties together also with the theme, with sort of visuals which you are using. I always think that the captions should tie together with the images. There shouldn't be too much of the disconnect. And by establishing the visual themes, that will guide your language for writing the captions as well. I know that might sound really ambiguous, but I'll get into it in a little bit more details. So let's say, for example, that one of your theme is the previous projects. I think when you're writing the captions, it is important to spark the interest within the first 125 captions, the 25 characters. because this is what people see as a preview, and this is what makes them decide whether they would like to read further or not. I know that some people skip captions altogether or just sort of create one line. I think that's you're really missing out on the opportunity, because even when people like the image, the caption is what really tells them the story and what creates that connection. So I always like to come from a point of telling the story, even if that story is very short. If it's your own image, tell people why they should care, tell them why they should be interested. So for example, instead of saying, renovated this family home, took us this long, did this. No. Start from the start. When we got approached, when we started this project, we didn't really know that we're going to do this and this and this. The client wanted to create a home which would create a perfect place for their growing family. Make the readers invested into an image and into its story. And that way, you have much higher chance of them actually engaging with your brand and creating the emotional connection. And I really think that social media and Instagram in particular is about creating that emotional connection with the people, to making them care, because as it happens, they are not always guided by just reason when they're purchasing. 9 out of 10 purchases are just made based on emotion. And even for something which is considered purchase, like anything to do with interior designs, from furniture to interior design services, you would like to create that connection with your possible readers. Now, I know it sometimes could be quite tough creating captions for image which is not your own. Let's say if you're reposting image from your suppliers or any of that sorts. And that's actually why I created the guide, which I think I sent to our email list 2 weeks ago, about different ideas how you can create the captions for your image. One of them, for example, would be to just describe what you like in the image. Not to describe it in a way as if you were trying to sell the product, but just to say what you like about it. If it's a color, for example, does it remind you of something? Do you have any sort of personal connection with an image? And I would say this is the one which you don't want to do all the times, but if you're completely struggling for the words and you just don't know what else to say, you can use your favorite quote as long as it ties with an image. Okay, another question is from Milena Didi Interiors. Would you say that every picture needs to have story and a long post? I actually don't. And I know that this might contradict all of the sort of Instagram marketing courses out there, but I just don't think every single post needs to have a long, elaborate story. People don't always have time to read it, and I think it's good to expand a little bit and talk in a little bit more depth. If, for example, let's say it's a picture of your team, or it's a picture of yourself, or if there's a human element, then it makes sense to expand a little bit. But I think short, snappy works the best, honestly. It's also important to sort of like separate the sentences in a way that it's easy for people to scan read. The very worst thing you can do is just to have a long block of text, which is very difficult to navigate and very difficult to get through. So I don't think every picture needs to have a massive story and a long post. I think if you look at the captions which we do at our Instagram profile, sometimes it's quite short, sometimes it's just a thought, sometimes it's just something which we like about it. I think, it does not have to be really long and elaborate, but it's just like, think of it as a one thought which you have about that image and the one thought which you would like to share about it. The one thing which I know, and that's the matter for interior designers often, the projects could take years to finalize. And then you will end up having, let's say, 15-20 images if you're lucky. And how to create the feed when you only have that many images. It's okay to repost, it's okay to rotate content. That's why I usually try to make sure that at least every third image in a client's feed is their own, but the rest are just complementary images which are on brand, which are not competing but complementing. And I think that really makes sense. But when you have, when you have the image which deserves a long caption, go for it. But for all the other ones, just a short and snappy is perfectly fine. Just don't make it an empty one. Make sure that you still share some sort of insight and personality in it. So another question from Eclectic Studio. By the way, anybody else, any question you have about Instagram, just write it here. I will read through it, I promise. How about using not your own images, reposting someone else's work? Do you think it's a good idea to mix own images with other designers, or is it confusing to a potential client? That's an excellent question, and I'm so glad you're asking, because we didn't really get into a lot of detail about this in our sessions. So I think it's perfectly fine reposting a third-party content as long as it's not competing with your own. This meaning, if you are an interior designer, don't repost the content from other interior designers, other rooms or anything like that. I'm a little bit flexible on, let's say, a mood boards, but I know that some people are strict and they don't repost anything from any other interior designers. But that doesn't mean that you cannot repost the image from your favorite supplier, from your favorite painter, artist, from your favorite hotel or holiday location. There are so many other things which you can repost as a third-party content. So don't feel that that is confusing. Quite the opposite. I think that what it does is that it builds your lifestyle behind your brand, and it gives people ideas. When they look at your Instagram, it should almost be like they're seeing the mood board. They sort of get immediately a vibe about how is it going to be working with you, what your visuality is like, how you see things. So it's not about each and individual image, but that's why I like to think about things as a feed. They look at your top 9 images when they visit your feed, and they decide whether this is something they're interested in or not. And that decision is being made in the snap of the second. Now, one thing which I'll say about reposting third-party images, it can actually help you to build a relationship as well. It happened with another client of mine that we would repost the image from one of the supplier, and they would come back, offering some sort of benefits on the account and like a higher discount or whatever. Or they would repost it as well, and that way you reach much wider audience. So don't think about it as a stealing other people's content because you don't have enough of your own. It's more about curating the content so it's on brand for you, and endorsing the things which are on brand for you and which you personally love. I think that comes down to creating the themes which are around your unique selling point. So, it's sometimes hard when it's just you yourself to decide on what makes your business unique and really stick to like a 3 points for maximum. But you need to be really brutally honest about it. You cannot be everything to everybody, and that's perfectly fine. Think about what clients tell back to you. What is it that they appreciate the most about yourself, about your business, about your product or service? And try to think about ways how that could be made tangible. If you have an excellent customer service, sharing a testimonials, that's tangible. If you're, for example, the clients really appreciate that you have an excellent eye for color, and you suggest an amazing artwork, and you really understand the world of art and design, then share that sort of content, the finds which you find. Even if you haven't been working with a supplier or brand or artist in advance, this is your platform, and it's an opportunity to endorse the things which you love and admire and like. So, and quite frankly, what it also does when you do this is that it attracts the right kind of people, same-minded people. I know that when it comes to social media, it's sort of on a verge of being marketing and being PR. So not everything is quantifiable immediately. However, what it does when you maintain the Instagram in this way for, let's say, 3-6 months, it's not only that you will be getting more clients, but that you'll be getting right clients, right kind of people. The people who are the similar mindset, who like the same things, and also people who will end up, because of it, being much easier to work with, because they will already trust you, they will already know that you get them and you are on the same sort of wavelength. I will just go back to the technicalities with reposting a third-party images, because with all the GDPR, I know a lot of people, they're really worried what is allowed, what is not allowed. So basically, as long as you credit the owner of the image, you're fine. But it's still a gray area. So if you would like to be super diligent, I will say message the person, drop them a message and let them know, really love this content. I would love to repost this on my profile on that date. Now, it might sound like everybody's happy when you repost their image and you credit them, but it's a little bit of due diligence which goes a long way, especially if you're having a larger brand or larger company and you need to make sure that everything is really 100% in order. But another thing which it does is it builds a relationship with the people whose content you're reposting. It's sometimes good to give them a heads up, because that also makes sure that they don't miss the fact that you're reposting their content, that they don't miss the fact that you really love what they do, and it builds a nice relationship. Now, when you're actually tagging the account, make sure that you don't only tag it in an image, but that you actually mention the account and make it a clickable link within the text. It's considered a bad manners if you only tag them in an image, because especially, and I do see it with some interior designers, sadly, when they repost the image from another studio, let's say an interior, and they tag them in an image, sort of to do the very bare minimum, but they don't tag it in the text, and by implication it could look like they're claiming the image is their own, which I think this is a bad way of handling it. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you tag people, make sure that you credit people, and yeah, have fun with it. Okay, next question. Eclectic Studio. Brilliant, thank you. If I may touch on captions again. How about adding humor with captions? Does it come across unprofessional? Again, another brilliant question, and thank you so much, Eclectic Studio. I don't think so. I think it comes down to your brand. Really taking your time with developing the brand guidelines in a way that it suits you. Adding a humor, as long as it's authentic and it is part of your brand, I don't think that there's any issue with that. When you think about the brand, almost think about it as a person, and there will be certain interests, so that would refer into your messages. There will be certain positioning, and you will notice it. For example, I will give you an example. Okay, Made.com, let's say, they're targeting sort of like a mid-low market, and they often would use a humor in their advertising or in their communications, and it's just something which they're very consistent in. I think using a humor could be a good way to show that sort of warmer side of your brand. And as long as that's a part of your brand, this is the way how you present yourself, and you do this consistently over the time, that's perfectly fine. I don't think that being as stiff and unapproachable is the way to go around. Now, again, it comes to where do you lay on a spectrum? And Google Online, there are a lot of tests which you can do about your brand personality and sort of help you decide where you stand. If, for example, you're working with a mid to lower market, or you're working with the families, it's usually a good idea to have some sort of way of being approachable, whether it's by sharing a little bit from your personal life, or being, using a little bit of humor, or just being more personable in your captions. You will find out that with a really ultra high end market, they don't do that. Or design and build companies, for example, they don't do that, because what people are looking from these companies, it's usually a reassurance, a professionality, and just strictly adhering to some sort of standard which has been set by the industry. So for those people, for example, using a humor or being funny could be sort of damaging and could be lowering the brand, because they don't want to be approachable, they don't want to appear, they would like to appear as sort of like put themselves on a pedestal, if that makes sense. Okay, I hope I answered your questions. Do a little exercise and just decide on where your company lays. Give yourself a guidelines to in which settings the sort of humor is okay, in which settings is it not okay. But for example, just using a short, funny, snappy caption for the post, it usually actually ends up being the way which helps other people to engage. And last but not least, don't be afraid to test things, especially on the social media. Nobody is going to be scrolling for months and months to check everything on your feed. And we've been doing that in the past as well. We always test things, sort of try to use them, see what the response is over the time, and see what the result is. For example, a couple of months ago, I have started testing using books in my feed, because I am absolute bookworm and I have so many beautiful, inspiring books. And I just always thought, what a shame that I cannot use that in my Instagram. So I started photographing the images of the books which I like, and sort of me browsing through them and sharing what I love about them. Now it started slow and I've been testing it for a couple of months, but now I can see that our audience is really interested in that as well. And often they're the same books which they have home as well, or they recommend their own. So just test it, and don't test it just like one time. Try to make sure that you give it at least 3 tries before you decide whether that's something to keep or that's something to discard. Okay, next question is from the Design Archives. Are there any other ways of increasing followers you would recommend other than by organic engagement? Okay, that's a really good question, and quite technical one, so I'll try to break it down. Yes, they are. Organic engagement is good, especially for B2B businesses, but I know that that can get quite tough if you're targeting B2C. One way is establishing yourself as a sort of leader of the market. So that could be by, for example, you can approach, you can collaborate with the different accounts which have larger amount of followers than you do. I know that, for example, recently we ran a promotion for one client of mine on The List by House and Garden, and he really made sure to prepare for that properly. We have selected extensively 6 images. We really went through, asked for the feedback from other people to make sure that these 6 images, which we're going to be posting during the takeover, are the best from the best. We have written really nice captions, make sure to include call to actions, talked about the projects. So we really did our homework. So when we did the takeover, his account generated within 1 day about 250 followers, and they were all, and I really manually checked majority of them, making sure there were no robots, there were no fake followers. It was all authentically genuine people who are interested in interior, both on the side of B2C and B2B. So that was fantastic. But for example, another account, and I had a look the next week, did the same sort of promotion, but the images were not as sharp, they were not as well lit, they were not as such a good quality. So I think he struggled to get even 40-50 out of the collaboration. So I think paid collaboration could be a good way, as long as it's an established company. I would say avoid completely anybody who emails you or who's this sort of an interior inspiration and asking you for hundreds and hundreds of pounds. No, don't do it. Another way is, for example, to pitch yourself, basically building up a PR, building up a buzz around your brand. So you can pitch yourself to be a guest on IG Live for example, for your favorite supplier or somebody who you have a relationship with. Could be with a blogger. It doesn't necessarily just have to be even in interiors. If it's, for example, a lifestyle blogger or mummy blogger from your sort of area, it might be interesting for them to invite you as a professional, and you will see an increase in followers over a short period of time. There's definitely going to be a spike. Now, with Instagram, sort of everything ties together. So if you write a guest post for another website, which has your potential audience there, you will see a surge in your website visits, and you will see surge in followers as well. But I still think that one-on-one engagement is really the best. We're actually having our marketing admin Tanya does the engagement, and it's very targeted for our brands, and we have seen the most steady increase over the time, because sometimes what you find is with any sort of a short spur promotion or anything, you will attract by definition people who are also not your ideal client, and those will leave you over the time. So it could be quite disheartening sometimes. So just as long as you keep this in mind, it's all good. Now, obviously, a good way how to increase followers is also to run ads. But if you are not experienced in ads, I would recommend you seek a professional, because what you could do is ended up spending your budget on on people who are not your target audience, who are not properly targeted. I have tried to run a couple of ads as well back in the day when I was learning how the algorithm works and everything. And for example, if you run it from Instagram by just boosting the post, you will often attract people who are in any sort of way your potential client. And that just means that you're increasing the vanity numbers, but you're not necessarily increasing the quality of your followers. So keep that in mind as well. It's not about having a massive amount of followers. It's about having the right kind of followers, the right kind of people. Because it's so much better to have 500 followers from which 2-3 gonna convert into becoming client than having a 10,000 and just people who will never ever become a supporters of your brand. So I hope I explained that properly. I'm just quickly gonna have a look if there are any more questions from you. Oh, so many of you, so many new faces. Okay, so feel free to drop me any questions you have about interior marketing, about marketing for interior businesses, and about Instagram. So question from Mohammed: how about targeted boosted posts? I think boosted post, it's a good idea, but I would always recommend to set it up rather from Facebook for Instagram than from Instagram, because it offers a more advanced targeting. Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you find it helpful. The reason to be is if you're setting it up from Instagram, you have an option of advanced targeting. For example, one thing which I really, really like, whether it's a boosted post or whether it's an ad on its own, is that you have an opportunity to retarget your website traffic. And that's really, really clever. I would say this is an amazing strategy if you're an interior product company. Good way how to retarget your audience. What you need to do is to make sure that you have installed your Facebook pixel on your website. It works in a similar way as Google Analytics pixel. It collects the data about the traffic coming to your website. And what you can then do is to use these data to retarget people who came to your website and who have displayed sort of behavior which you find desirable. So for example, somebody who have spent over, let's say, 1 minute on your website, who have seen more than 2 pages. And you can set your own guides, but what you could do, this is amazing if you have a small budget and you really want to make sure that your ads shows to the relevant people. You can set up a retargeting ad, whether it's just a post or whether it's an encouragement, a discount, or anything which would help them to attract them back. Only to the people who are already familiar with your brand. Now, as we have mentioned, anything to do with interiors, pretty much, unless we're talking about like a lower end of home accessories, it's usually considered purchase. People need to gather enough information and they need to have enough time to think and to come up to the decision that your product or your service is the one which they would like to acquire. In order to do this effectively, I think it's really important to design more than one touch point with your brand, but also do not drop the lead along the way. This comes down to, and you probably heard about it already, sort of like designing a customer journey or designing a sales funnel. The very, very early stages would be about creating an awareness. So that could be Instagram, that could be somebody finding you through search engine result pages. And then when you actually get them to your website, you would like to capture that lead. So that's usually done through email marketing. Now, if you don't capture the lead or you would like to further develop the lead, you can retarget them. Usually through email marketing, that's where you really develop a lead into a potential customer or you convert them into the customer. And then obviously you would like to have also some sort of actions designed in place for a current customer to make sure you're measuring if they are happy, if they're pleased with the service, or asking them for a testimonial. Now that might sound really complicated, but it could be as simple as interior designer making sure that they ask for a testimonial from their client. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly have a look to see if there are any more questions about interior marketing, Instagram, and how to use it to grow your businesses. All right. What platform do you think is the best for interior designers? I love questions. Don't apologize. Look like this studio. Write as many questions you want. That's why I'm here. I think it's every sort of moderator nightmare to be in a live Q&A stream and not getting any questions. So the platform which is the best for interior designers. That's a really good question. I think it would come down to your target client. I'm inclined to say Instagram, but not in every single case. Because, for example, if you're an interior designer who works with developers, who works within a B2B environment, then LinkedIn could be really, really beneficial. However, even when you have a LinkedIn, what I've noticed is that they would still come on your Instagram to check sort of, if there's if you have enough followers, if your aesthetic is very clean and sort of what they're looking for. You'd be surprised, but with a lot of, especially larger development, they are purposely looking for interior designers whose style is sort of proven by having that audience behind them. So I would say Instagram, but the very second one would be probably LinkedIn, because people already come there to network with others in order to grow, in order to drum up some business. So it's just a really good platform to make the connections and make these introductions. I will sort of tie with this question while I'm waiting for other of you to write their own questions. The best platform for interior product brands is Pinterest. And I stand by this statement. Is Houzz dead in your opinion? Okay, Mohammed, thank you so much for this question. I'll get to it in just 1 second. Just speaking about Pinterest for interior product brands, the reason to be, if you have a product and you're not tied to geographical location, I would say Pinterest is absolutely fantastic for you, because people come there to plan their future purchases. And one thing which I'm going to say is each of the average audience for each platform is a little bit different, and the Pinterest one tends to be the one which has higher than average amount of disposable income, comparable only to LinkedIn. But as I said, they come here not to do business, not to draw up the business, but to actually plan what they're going to buy in the future. So having a good presence, having a regular amount of images, posts, fresh pins coming up can really go a long way. Is Houzz dead in your opinion? Houzz is an interesting one. I think it's a fantastic platform to drum up some leads. However, in my opinion, it works very similarly as, for example, Google Ads would. As long as you pay, you're getting a traffic. As long as you're using it, you're getting some sort of fraction. I don't think it's as desirable for a client whose sort of average value of transaction is not that high. It's really, really working very good for like a design and build or construction companies, because usually their profit margin is much higher than for interior designers. So I think for them, it's still a pretty good tool. But I always, I'm Houzz certified. I have done some business on Houzz, and I think it's good to have there some sort of presence, unless you are targeting the high end of the market. If you're targeting the very high end of the market, then I think it actually could be quite imaging, because the leads which you get through are usually mid-market or just above mid-market. I think if you're more like sort of high end, or you're an interior designer, much better platform is interiordesigners.net. You can register there for free, and I know that you pay them a fee only for the leads which turn into the business or something like that. I don't want to lie, but I know I spoke with several different designers who are using them, and they're quite pleased that it's a good tool to drum up the business. So interiordesigners.net, have a check them out. What about Pinterest from Arc Deco Design? I think Pinterest is awesome. It's really, really, really good if you understand the principle of it and how it works, and you decide whether it's a good idea for your business. Now, I know a lot of people are using Pinterest to sort of just create the mood boards. If that's what you do, unless it's serving your business, if you're just doing it for the business marketing, there is no point in it. The best thing about Pinterest is that they promote your images, that they promote your brand, but also that they include the link. So they bring a lot of referral traffic to your website. That's why repinning is not going to do much for your account. The strategy for Pinterest is to publish as a majority, not all of them, but majority, your own images, creating a proper SEO optimized captions which contain keywords, because Pinterest is visual search engine. So you need to make sure that if you were having a Moroccan tiles in your picture, that you actually in the captions describe what is in the image in the words, instead of just talking about your business or things which are unrelated to the actual picture. You will see that will boost your traffic much more. I mean, if you look at the HC marketing Pinterest, I really do a very bare minimum there, just because of the time. We've been onboarding a lot of clients recently, so I had to prioritize a little bit. But we still get over 100,000 unique views every single month. So I think it's just about understanding what to do in order to succeed on the platform. As I said, SEO optimized captions for all of your boards, but also for all of your images. Just make sure that you describe what is in an image rather than sort of like a story behind a company or something. And secondly, you cannot choose who you show this image, which is tricky. You cannot choose the kind of audience who sees it. So if you are an interior designer who only serves West London, there is no point for you to invest an excessive amount of time into building your Pinterest, because you will be getting traffic from Asia, you'll be getting traffic from US, and it's just unrelated traffic, really. The one thing which I would recommend to avoid, and that's because it will mess up your website traffic analytics, is to publishing in images which are either not your own or which are not tied to your website, and putting your website link onto them. What is going to happen is you're going to have a lot of your bounce rate is going to increase. So you'll get a lot of people who click on the image, come to your website and be like, this is not what I'm looking for, and they close it within a couple of seconds, and that could really mess up your website analytics. So avoid doing that. Actually, if you're interested, we could make it our theme for August, the Pinterest. I was actually thinking about it, but at the end I decided for something a little bit else. So let me know. I'm always open. Drop me a DM about what sort of topics do you want to discuss in a upcoming month, and we will make it our themes. Do you think Twitter is worth pursuing? BIM Flooring. No. I don't think Twitter is worth pursuing. Not for interiors. I think Twitter works fantastically for any sort of like a news outlet. It's been working pretty great for like a theaters or for sort of any platform where there's always something new to say, there are always some news. I think Twitter is a good one, but I haven't seen a single company, and that includes some of the top players, which would get business of Twitter. I think because it just comes down to the base of what the platform is about. This one is about written word, about information. But interiors are more visual, so that sometimes can hurt to you. Also, it's a mature platform, similar to Facebook. It's been around for a very, very long time. So if you're a new company, if you're just starting there, it's going to take you a lot of effort to use it to drum up some business. I think usually for a brand, it's a good idea to perhaps register an account and then make it like invisible, or just to leave it all together. It's better to do really, really great on one or two platforms than to just spread yourself thinly over 20. And there is no point creating a content for Instagram and then reposting it exactly as it is on Twitter, on Facebook, on here and there. I just don't see much point in it. Each platform is a different, audience is different, what they want to engage with is different, so there really isn't much point. And I will give you an example from one of my favorite interior designers, Beata Human. If you look at her website, I think she only has their link to her Instagram. But her Instagram is like amazing. You know, every single picture gets over like at least 1,500 likes, amazing engagement. You know, she's been on Instagram Live for different suppliers, even on her own. And she does really amazingly on that platform. I didn't see her having a Twitter. I don't see any post on Facebook. She might have Pinterest. I haven't explored, but you could really see that it's so much better to put all your effort, time, and energy into one platform, which is likely to support your business, than to just do everything and being mediocre. So I'll have a look at other questions. Mohammed, do you think what do you think is missing within the kitchen designer industry from a marketing standpoint? That's an interesting question. Kitchen designer industry. I actually work with, one of my clients is Kitchen Design Studio, and you can look them up, Holland Street Kitchens. It's hard to say what's missing. I don't think there's much things which are missing. Um, I can only give an examples from like a digital from social media marketing from the ones which I have seen in the past. So it seems that a lot of kitchen studios don't know really how to use Pinterest, because I would see their boards which are not supporting them in any way, and they wouldn't have a proper done captions and stuff like that. Some smaller kitchen studios, they might not, their website SEO might not be very good. They won't really understand the backlinks. But like kitchen design industry as a whole, I would say perhaps a storytelling could be a little bit better. Often what they do is, because the images of their own product will always do really, really well of their kitchens, that's why people follow them. They would just be blasting the one after another, and they won't try to show the lifestyle behind the brand. I think the one brand which does it well, it's Life Kitchens. I think they have a showroom in Victoria, around Victoria or Pimlico. So they're sort of attempting to do that. Also, there's not much differentiation. It sometimes feels like it's hard to make your selection because all of the companies, especially like a lot of top players, they just seem so similar. And it's hard to distinguish why you should go with this supplier or that supplier. So I would recommend, I think one thing which kitchen design studios could do is to decide on their unique selling propositions and really just run with these and make it something which would be distinguishable and which would give them leverage over the competition, because the market is really, really saturated. When you're running a Google Ads, you spend a fortune just targeting the London market and trying to get more people to your website. Thanks a lot for your responses. My pleasure, Mohammed. Ask away. So Milena Didi Interiors is asking, so what would be your advice to someone who has just left a design company to start working on freelance project? What is the best way to market yourself and find connections? Okay, so if you have just left and you don't have any sort of basis, then what you need to do is to do direct marketing. You need to talk yourself up. And that's what about 2 years ago I've been doing when I started an agency. You have to really be really busy and you have to start a lot of conversations. The way how to do it, I think LinkedIn is a fantastic platform, and I think it's easier to get a job in B2B than to find a job in B2B than to B2C. I think good way is to create a portfolio or create a company presentation which is showing your previous work, how you work, sort of the ideas of different services which you can do for the people, and then just to approach a lot of potential clients on LinkedIn. You can do direct emails as well, although the response is usually better if you start on a LinkedIn. And think of the people who could benefit from your businesses. It's usually the architectural practices, or the design and build practices, especially the smaller ones who might not have an in-house interior designer. I would say it's a good way to start with B2B, and that way to build up some sort of regular projects, because what benefit it has for them working with a freelance interior designer is that they don't have to have you on a payroll. They approach you when they have a project, when they need to have a work. And also, I mean, for you that is great, because even so it takes a couple of months to start getting that work in. It grows exponentially over the time, and once you develop a great work then they will always keep you in mind, and it's going to be client for life. Another question from Milena Didi Interiors: when most of portfolio works belongs to the company you used to work for? Yeah, I do come across it. It's usually a good idea. I mean, that depends on what sort of terms did you leave. If, for example, I know a lot of people, especially interior designers now are facing being let go because of the furlough. And that is actually a good situation to be in, because that means that they've been happy with your work, they've been happy with what you have performed, and that way you can ask for something back. So you can, for example, ask them to write a testimonial or recommendation on LinkedIn, let's say, or on your Google business pages. You can also negotiate whether you could use the images as long as you credit it correctly to whom it belongs, and make it very clear what part of the jobs have you actually done. And you need to seek a permission because the images are often the ownership of the images belongs to the company. So you need to make sure that you have permission to share it, and that you're familiar with what sort of terms do they want. Some will say, no, you cannot share it. Some will say, yes, you can share it under these conditions, that you will always credit the company, that there will be logo of our company in a corner, that you will do this. Ask. I know that it sometimes could be terrifying, sort of setting yourself up for a possible no, for being told no, you can't. But especially if you're a new business owner, you're gonna hear a lot of no, and it's better to get used to it, and it's better to ask, and it's better to figuring out the ways how you can make things happen. Even if they, for example, say no, try to think of the way how you can turn the no into the yes. So, for example, you could say, well, I will be approaching these and these clients who are not your possible customers, so I'm not taking anything away. There will be your logo, there will be a little bio about your company, so that way you're building an awareness with a whole new audience. I think as long as you present it well, you can turn that no into yes, or at least maybe. Eclectic Studio, last question I have. What do you think is the key when it comes to engagement? Is it really important to have comments under your post? Excellent questions. Sometimes you get comments, sometimes you don't get comments. I think engagement is showing an interest. And that just comes down to the customer journey and sort of creating a conversion funnel and getting people to really become fans of your business and what you do. So it is, if somebody comments under your post, it means that they're invested in what you do, that they're, higher than average fans. It's good to creating an opportunities for people to show that sort of behavior. So wherever it's suitable, to ask them for an opinion, to ask the question, to ask them to do some actions. But ultimately, engagement, I actually, for example, look rather than at the amount of the comments, at the amount of website clicks. So if some posts generate a lot of website clicks or a lot of shares, so I can reach another audience. Comments are fantastic to have them, but it's not everything. And again, you will sometimes find it's quite a reciprocal thing. So if you are commenting on other people's posts, they will come back and they will comment on yours. Okay, I will just go and have a look at the rest of the questions. I'm so excited you're sending me so many questions. Yay! How do you approach potential clients in Instagram through DMs? Or is there a better way? Okay, BI and flooring. I actually think the Instagram is really great to approach new clients because it's setting up a different sort of level of relationship. It's a bit more friendlier, a little bit closer. I think it's still important that when you're presenting your services, company presentation, or anything, that you do it through the email. But if, for example, I get sometimes approached by a company saying like, oh, we would love to see like how we could work together. So I would usually send them a link to my Calendly to book a Zoom call and to speak with them. But it's good to have some sort of system in place. So think about the sort of messages which you receive the most time and create a template that works for you. Is it that you offer them to send them a samples? Is it that you offer to send them an email with your company presentation? What sort of next step do you want them to take, and do you want to take? Create a template message, and I think that's a brilliant idea. If you're talking about you reaching out to people, I think yes, but with a reason. It's good to introduce your company, but it's not a good idea to be pushing selling. What do I mean? For example, when you have a new follower and it meets the qualifying criteria of being potentially a customer, send them an intro DM. Send them something along the lines, hey, thank you so much for following our page. We're so excited to have you. And then share some tidbits, some news or something they might be interested in. Like, we have just launched this new thing, would love to hear what you think. We have just updated our website, would love to hear what you think. We just wrote this piece of article which is about 7 things you need to ask yourself before selecting the right flooring for your home, or test or quiz or something, and then right at the end, you know, if we can be of any help, or if you have any question regarding our product or need some help, feel free to drop us an email or to send us a message, and just sign it. The way how it positions the relationship in a way that you're reaching out just to introduce yourself and you're not pushing for the sale when they're still not familiar with you. But the thing is, you allowing yourself to be explored. So if this is what they're looking for, if they're ready to purchase, if they are actually interested, they will usually answer back, asking more questions or wanting to set up an appointment or call you, ask you to find out more. So I think this is a good way to approaching the potential client on Instagram. Milena, the interiors, amazing. Thank you so much. Very helpful. My pleasure. Thank you so much for your questions. Eclectic Studio, excellent. Thank you very much. Oh, so good. I'm so glad I could help you. I thought that this Q&A would be just like a perfect summary to our June theme about all things interiors. And if you don't have any more questions, you know, I'll allow one more question, and then we're gonna wrap it up for today. So let's see, what is your last question about all things interiors? BIM flooring, thank you so much for your detailed answer. Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So, okay, if you don't have any more questions, brilliant, then I would like to know how to create that link bio. Okay, last question, brilliant. Word of resonance, please. Do you run ads for your own clients? Yes, Mohammed, we do. We run ads both on Instagram, Facebook, but we also do Google Ads. So going back to, I would like to know how to create that link bio. So if you mean just like a general link in the bio, you just change the website name, whatever you have. I quite like to use a bit.ly and update it quite regularly. So let's say if I publish a new article or I have some sort of media feature, like Domus is going to be featuring my talk about sustainability in interiors next month. So I like to include link there. And it's always good in a bio to include some sort of call to action or arrow pointing down. So that sort of reinforce people to actually click on it. If you're referring to the link tree, this one is like half of the people are saying it's brilliant, half of the people are just like swearing by it, and half of the people are just hating it. So I would say among digital marketers is very similar. Having a link tree in your creating the link tree would basically, for those of you who are not familiar, what it allows you is to include several different links in one link in a bio. So you click and it will create this like a little menu where people, which diverts people to different parts of their website. So think of it, for example, as on Google Ads when you have side links, when you have an ad, a little bit of text, and then you have there a link to about us, about this, our project, contact us, and all of that. So basically it could be a good idea if you are, for example, a product-based company, or if you are selling packages or any of that sort. But some people argue that it just creates a barrier for people to actually get to your website because there is one more page to click. And the thing is, with each of the page, with each of the barrier, you're losing a percentage of people who don't make it to your website at the end. So I think it's usually a good idea, because each audience is a bit different, to try and do 1 month just with a link, one link in a bio, and try, if you're thinking about Linktree, doing a Linktree for 1 month, and then compare the results. How did it look in Google Analytics? See how it impacted your website visits through the comparable periods, and decide accordingly. I, for example, don't use Linktree because I like to use the link in the bio to just always refer from the post, the people there for one particular purpose, and I don't like to confuse people by giving them too many options, because yeah, it just feels like coming to the Starbucks and being asked like 1,000 questions when all you want is just one thing. So that's just me. That's what I recommend. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to really make sure that you use your bio wisely and you don't leave it just as a static thing, which is out there, always the same all the time. All right, so that's all for today. I have promised at the start of the stream that I will let you know what is going to be the theme for July. Every single month, we select together one digital marketing area, which we tackle then throughout 4 separate sessions. And the one which I have chose for July is email marketing. Okay, email marketing. It's not as sexy as Instagram. However, this is really where you can get the most traffic, where you can get the most impact on your business. Email, there is a saying among marketers that money are in the list, and it's true. Especially in nowadays with all GDPR rules and all of it, the act of somebody giving you and entrusting you with their email address means that they're interested in what you do and they will probably want to do business with you, just not right now. And the fact is that 95% of people who will come to your website will perhaps want to do a business with you, but not just right now. It's not right time. Think of the situation. Somebody is purchasing a house and they're in a process of finalizing the paperwork, and they might be imagining in their head, oh, I'm going to do such a beautiful interiors. And they will find your website. You're an interior designer. Obviously, they're not ready to go ahead yet. But if you have an email marketing, that gives them a way to submit their email and make sure that you stay at the forefront of their mind. So Mohammed is asking, email marketing, B2B or B2C essentially? Actually, we're going to cover both of the parts. We're going to talk about some technicalities, how to do it, why to do it, how to grow your email list, and I think the general rules which are going to be helpful both to B2B and B2C audience. So I'm really looking forward to it. I will read you out the sessions which we're going to have throughout the week. We're going to be starting next week on a Wednesday with why do you need to do email marketing and who to do it with. So reasons to why email marketing can benefit your business, who to do it with, meaning what sort of email provider. A lot of us use a MailChimp and I think there's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. But there are some other options which you can explore as well, especially if you're a product-based company and you could save a lot of time with doing automatization. I will advise you which companies are the best one to work with. The week after that, we're going to be talking about creating email marketing account and personalizing your templates. So all of these beautiful templates where you have, like a pattern on the background, which are really nicely designed and which is just pleasure getting in your email box. I'm going to show you exactly step by step how to do it. The week after that, on a Wednesday 22nd, creating your first email marketing campaign and understanding the analytics. So together we will gonna go step by step in creating a campaign and then examining the results which you get afterwards, explaining what it means, what sort of information does it tells you if you have certain percentage of opens or if you don't, if you missed out on the clicks. We're gonna go through all of that one by one. And the last session of the month is going to be about how to grow your email marketing list. So talking about different techniques, different ways, how you can attract more people to your email marketing list and grow it substantially over the time, but also how to maintain it over the time. Meaning if people, for example, are not opening, if there's bounce back, if people unsubscribe, what sort of information does it tell to you and how do you need to pivot in order to make it work? Now I know that GDPR is something which is like a big word in terms of email marketing, and a lot of people are wondering what do you need to do in order to make that work. So we're going to touch on that point a little bit as well, just to give you some peace of mind. Well spent hour, Eclectic Studio. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Just a quick reminder for those of you who are not on our email list, I'm going to be sending a recording from today's session tomorrow. So head over to hannahclode.com, scroll all the way to down, and make sure that you signed up to our email marketing list. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to see you next week on Wednesday when we're gonna tackle next session about email marketing titled Why Do You Need an Email Marketing and Who to Do It With. So thank you so much and take care. Bye.